Well, mere hours after the election results on October 21st, the word Wexit started to trend on social media. It's a takeoff of the word Brexit, the referendum by which United Kingdom voters voted to leave the European Union. The last 3 years have passed and they have not yet exited. But can Alberta and or other Western parts of Canada exit from Confederation? That's a question that's not just the stuff of social media now. Pollsters say the idea is gaining traction, not just in Alberta, but other Western provinces too. In the meantime, Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta, says that he hopes to find a stronger place for Alberta within Canada. Well, which will happen, or do they both work in tandem? Joining us now via Skype from Edmonton is Peter Downing, the boss of WexitAlberta.com, a website and Facebook group that got a lot of the momentum in those early days. Peter, thanks very much for joining us here on Rebel News.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ezra.
Well, it's nice to talk with you. We've heard so much about you, including from absolutely predictable critics who I think are criticizing in bad faith. They would criticize anyone who stands up for Western values or against Liberal or Trudeau values. But I just want to ask you some basic familiarization questions for myself and our viewers who are curious about you and the website and your plans. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You seem like a youngish guy from Alberta. What's your background?
My background is youngish, 37. I spent 2 years with the Canadian Armed Forces, 9 years with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police after my public sector service. Went back, got education in business, project management, change management, continuous process improvement. I'm actually doing a PhD right now in industrial psychology. But my heart for this is whether it's seeing government policy translate into poor choices that, my friends have died in the line of duty as a result of, or whether it's my friends and neighbors, over 100,000 Albertans who are out of work. We have 16-year-old Greta Thunberg coming to Edmonton with all sorts of fanfare. But there's enough 16-year-old girls here in Alberta whose dads are out of work right now. They don't have certainty. People drawing out of their savings right now to even take care of medical expenses. So much uncertainty. 200 more people got laid off with Husky Energy the day after the election. And Canada's now going south. They're rebranding. They're going to be American. And we have a prime minister and an Eastern Canadian political establishment that simply doesn't care, that simply wants to tell us to buck up, to diversify our economy, to slap on a sales tax. And the reality is the only leverage that we have is our geopolitical leverage, our trillions of dollars of resources, our young, hardworking, dedicated, intelligent labor force, and our lawful ability to leave the Confederation of Canada.
All right, well, you talked about a bunch of things there. Let me just ask a little bit more on the biography. Have you yourself ever run for public office? I mean, I think you're an entrepreneur, you've got the website, you've got the names and the list. I think you had a town hall style meeting in Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken, with over 700 people there. So
900.
900, congratulations. So you got some ability to organize. I think you were nodding when I asked if you've run for office. Have you run for office before?
Yeah, my first kind of kick at the cat getting involved in the whole electoral sphere. I actually, my first time doing any kind of politics, volunteering for the Wild Rose Party in 2015 for the one of the candidates here in Edmonton during that provincial election. So got my feet wet there that way, and then I actually got some experience. I ran for the Christian Heritage Party in 2015 in the fall. Really, I'd always been a card-carrying conservative member. I had a fundamental issue with the arms treaty deal with Saudi Arabia. Just again, we have a law that protects against, that says that you can't give advanced military weaponry to regimes that have a likelihood of using it on their own people abusively. So that was that, and I ran. I got some experience with the Christian Heritage Party. I'm not a member of that party anymore. Since then, I've managed some political campaigns for candidates municipally, as well as being involved in other political organizations and groups moving forward until I got involved in the Wexit. Actually, I registered Alberta Fights Back as a third-party political advertiser with Elections Alberta, and then moved into the Wexit project.
Okay. I mean, obviously you can organize something if you got 950 people showing up. Do you have a bit of a team? Are there other people working with you?
That's right. We have a fantastic team within Edmonton and across the prairies. We've just got the best talent, the best people, again, who, the majority of it's all self-funded. We've had fantastic interest from people who bought memberships. Our membership sales have exploded. So
what's a membership?
Is it definitely is not a, oh, I just want to finish that last point. It is definitely not a one-man show.
Right.
For sure.
A membership in what? Are you an organization or a club, or what does a membership give someone?
Well, just a member, just like any other organization, whether it's a club or we're obviously in the registration process now. Wexit Alberta has, you can become a member. We're in the process right now of Wexit Alberta was launched on June 9th to bring together the smaller conservative, non-UCP, independence elements together to try to bring something credible and cohesive that would move toward obviously winning seats in the legislature, and that would be willing to legislate a bill or draft a bill to legislate a referendum on separation if the current UCP government, for whatever reason, decides they're going to maintain their federalist line.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I saw in the news that you have sent in, I'm just looking at the CTV story here, 500 signatures to
543
to Elections Canada to register as a federal party. Is that accurate? And how does that, you were just mentioning the Alberta legislature, and then earlier you said you had some experience on the municipal level. Is it going to be a federal party or a provincial party or a movement?
So we in the next coming days, we're just drafting up kind of like a pictorial kind of explanatory org chart so that everybody can kind of look at it at a glance and it makes sense to everybody, because there are a number of moving parts. So what you saw on the news is we filed our official registration with requests for registering our political party federally with Elections Canada. So basically to do for Western Canada what the Bloc Québécois does for Quebec. We want to promote the unity of the 4 Western provinces. We want to have a seat, obviously federally, and to fight back against any legislation or regulation that harms Western Canadian interests. And obviously as well to bring Western Canadian issues to the national forefront. As well, having runners on base, if we're successful in a referendum to help have favorable parliamentary negotiations with a province who decides to leave. And also what it does do too is it creates basically a choice. Based on the success of the Reform Party in the 80s and the 90s, we do expect to be successful here. Ontario, as we know, keeps electing more liberal members of parliament, which obviously would have made it tough for the Conservatives to win government anyway. So it creates this wedge that it sets up political dynamic that it's going to be either perpetual liberal governments or we vote to gain our economic liberty, our social stability, and our self-determination here in Alberta. The door for us was locked on the inside. Wexit Alberta was the brand that we launched to bring together groups like the Freedom Conservative Party, the Alberta Independence Party, Alberta Advantage Party, and again, lots of personalities, moving pieces. Sometimes it doesn't work as quick as possible.
All right, well, let me interrupt you, Peter, because I just want to figure it out. And I share a lot of your views and a lot of your frustration. I'm just trying to understand a little bit of the plan, and maybe you're still working that out. And by the way, I think that's a good answer to say we're still figuring it out, because it's only been 2 weeks since the election, and you've only had this idea for a few months. You mentioned having a federal party, but do you need, if Wexit is really about an exit, do you need the provincial government to have the referendum? I'll admit I haven't read the Clarity Act recently, and I haven't reviewed the Supreme Court's treatment of it, so I should probably do that. But don't you need to have strength provincially?
Yes, we do.
So how does that, are you going to get a provincial party too?
Right. So the Wexit Alberta brand, just to explain that piece again, that other side of it, whether it takes the form of, let's say, for instance, the other groups aren't able to work together, unify, and slap the Wexit Alberta name on themselves, if there still is disunity or dysfunction or a lack of organizational capacity, then we will look to register Wexit Alberta as a provincial political party. hopefully we don't have to go down that road. We have a lot of support from industry here in Alberta, industry, labor, Indigenous communities, immigrant interests, immigrant communities, senior citizens. Again, public sector as well, private sector, everybody, because this isn't a left-wing versus right-wing issue. It really is a Western Canadian issue. But everybody really wants to see Jason Kenney have the chance. I know he said he's a Federalist, but again, lots of people are kind of counting on him and hoping that he's going to lead us out of Confederation, that he's going to implement an enhanced version of the firewall letter that we call the Infernal Wall. So in addition to...
Listen, I mean, I don't claim to be the closest Jason Kenney confidant, but I have known the man for 20 years, 30 years. And the idea that he would lead Western separatism is not only something that I have never heard him say in public or in private, even when we were young friends. And I'm not that close to him these days, obviously. But it seems so obvious to me that he is a Federalist, that he has said as much. His consultations are how to strengthen Canada within Confederation. It seems so patently obvious he's not your man, and even his own political destiny seems so focused on. I mean, he speaks French, English bilingually. He's got all these.
Maybe he's trying to become the prime minister. We don't know.
Well, that's so how.
Because it needs it needs to be spelled out for everybody who thinks that Jason Kenney will lead them out of Confederation, whether they're the voter.
Well, he's not gonna. I'll just let me save you some time. He's not gonna.
And that's the point. I know he's not going to, but some people believe that he will. So we want to be in good faith with the political mood and say, hey, here's your chance to be a hero. Here's your chance to be the first president of Alberta, because the electoral math, whether it's just Ontario becoming more liberal on their own, but with us winning, let's say, 50 seats in Western Canada, the Conservative Party of Canada will never win government again. So it's a choice between perpetual liberal governments or voting for economic liberty, social stability, and self-determination. Voting to leave.
Now, I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
Because you talked about Alberta and president of Alberta or whatever. What's your desired outcome? I guess, like, if you could look ahead 5, 10, 20 years, what do you want it to be?
Right.
Alberta, a stronger Alberta within a stronger Canada. That's probably what Jason Kenney would say. An independent Alberta or an independent West. You talked about unifying the Western provinces. Like, I'm just trying to understand where you go and Wexit, but you're running federal candidates. Again, I'm not trying to trick you or trap you. I'm just trying to understand what you're doing.
There's a number of moving parts, so I'm trying to keep it as obviously as direct and on point, but also just obviously it's clear too. So the vision is simply this: we're marching toward independence. We're marching towards our sovereignty. The Wexit Canada, in a sense, is the shield fighting back against federal regulation, Bill C-69, C-48, whatever other horrible thing Justin Trudeau's going to come up with his new green economic plan that, when he announces his cabinet ministers on November 20th. So Wexit Canada, in one sense, serves as a shield, and also as a catalyst to help the provincial separatist parties in each of the 4 provinces, obviously more stronger in Alberta and Saskatchewan, but Northern BC is very supportive.
But what separatist party? Like, I don't. Are there separatist parties in the 4 Western provinces?
Oh, they are starting. There will be Wexit BC, Wexit Alberta, Wexit Saskatchewan, Wexit Manitoba. Absolutely, 100%.
And are those going to be something that you organize?
I'm involved in the organization with it right now.
All right. So I won't press you more on that. I'm just trying to understand.
But I can say very clearly, Ezra, we're marching towards independence. So if the powers to be in Eastern Canada, in Ontario, in Quebec, in the Senate, all of it, say, okay, we will open up the Constitution. We will have an equal elected and effective Senate. We will have proper regional regional representations for the provinces. I live in a riding with 177,000 people per one member of parliament. An Atlantic Canadian has a member of parliament for every 38,000. So to be able to, even out the seat count, scrap the carbon tax, scrap Bill C-69, scrap unfair equalization programs, then I think that we have a basis and allow free trade throughout the country. Then I think we have a basis to be part of a country. But until those things happen, and the ball is in the court of Eastern Canada, obviously you saw that Canadian senators group, those 11 people, I think 5 of them only happen to be from the West, they're going to focus on regional issues. We don't have an equal elected effective Senate, not like advanced democracies like Australia or Germany or the United States or even Russia, who recognize that you have to have balance for the region so you don't have the tyranny of the masses voting to out-tax and out-regulate the less populated, more resource-rich areas. So I think if they want to open that up and say that, you know what, we need to do this, then I think there's a basis to continue to be a part of the country, because otherwise we are marching towards separation.
So are you going to be the leader of the party? Or are you the leader?
I am the leader of Wexit Canada.
And that's that's seeking registration as a party. Will you have a party leadership contest, or will you just sort of be the leader?
Just see how it goes for now. The reality is about effectiveness. It's not about me. It's not about anybody. It's about achieving the effect and achieving the result, which, by the way, I think we're doing right now. We're already having this national conversation. And I think that whether it be, I think Diane Francis wrote in the Business Post, Financial Post, that Alberta needs a new deal right away or separation is inevitable. Yeah. I think that people who are paying attention, and again, it takes me, there's moving pieces. We've got to explain the plan maybe 1, 2, or 3 times. But when they see how it results in the electoral math and the disposition of voters here in Alberta, recognize that this is going to happen if something drastic isn't taken to ensure that our interests here in Western Canada are protected, because we simply won't allow, our well-being and our futures and the future of our children and our grandchildren to be contingent on the benevolence of Justin Trudeau or Eastern Canada. That's not a sound plan.
All right. Well, I look forward to you fleshing things out. And again, I feel like I don't want to cross-examine you here.
You're a lawyer. It's okay.
I'm trying to, I was a young man once, and I observed Preston Manning do the extremely hard work, 200 nights a year on the road, of building a political party from scratch. And by the way, in those early days, he only ran candidates in the 4 Western provinces. So it sounds...
We've learned from our friends who were early reformers too, and that was the biggest mistake they made, was running candidates east of Manitoba. We are only running candidates in Western Canada. And again, for the purpose to be literally...
I'm not trying to argue with you, but the lesson I learned, and I was Preston Manning's assistant for a couple of years, I saw some of it, was the Reform Party guaranteed 3 Liberal majorities in a row because it was trying to do things in the federal parliament. Its motto was "The West wants in." I don't know if its motto was "The West wants out" would have been stronger, but I don't want to go back on that again, but I'm just not sure how sending MPs to Ottawa fixes the problem. But let me move off that, because I think you're just going to have to figure these things out and flesh them out. And you've told me that's what you're doing.
You've got exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to.
I don't. I mean, I'm rooting for you. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. Let me ask you more concrete questions. You had this event in Edmonton. We'll be sure to cover them. I'm not sure why we missed that one, but we'll keep our eyes peeled for your other.
Come on down to Calgary. We'll be in Calgary on November 16th, and the event's expected to be bigger. We'll have a live band this time. November
16th, you're having an event in Calgary, and who's speaking?
The best way to stay up to date on, we're just trying to find a venue big enough right now. We're almost there, but to stay updated, go onto our website at wexitevents.com, and you'll see everything that we've got lined up.
Okay, so you got Edmonton and you got Calgary coming up. Are you doing anything in the other Western provinces?
We'll be in Red Deer on November 30th, and then in the new year, I'm expected to be out in Saskatchewan helping start to develop the grassroots, the CAs, and all that kind of stuff, and the structure and the leadership group out there. So I'll be doing a little bit of traveling in Saskatchewan in the new year.
And who will be speaking at these events? Obviously, you will. Will there be other speakers in Calgary and Red Deer?
Yes, there will. You got to show up to see who they are.
Fair enough. Well, listen, Peter, I appreciate you taking the time. I like your entrepreneurial spirit. You clearly struck a chord, and we know that that's true because we see it in the polls and we see it in the abuse you're already taking from some of the snide journalists out east.
Yeah. Well, we got lawyers to deal with some of that stuff. Some of the stuff we don't care about. The other stuff that's a lie. Oh God.
Well, I know my history enough to know that Doug Christie, the former leader of the Western Canada Concept, he sued his critics and he wound up in court for a decade. I wouldn't recommend being a politician who sues. I mean, and I say that as someone who's in too much litigation myself. But listen, I'm glad you came on the show today. I like your entrepreneurial spirit.
I love the work you guys do.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you, and I'll tell my viewers, I look forward to the plan and the strategy and the philosophy being more ironed out, because I don't quite understand it.
We're going to make it we're making it clear. We have it ironed out. We just have to figure out how to communicate it better. But you'll see that soon.
All right. Well, I look forward to that. I won't keep you any longer. I'm grateful for your time. We're interested in what you're doing. And we'll follow it along with the other people trying to make sense of the mess we're in. So, Peter, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ezra. I really appreciate it.
All right. There you have it. Peter Downing is the founder of Wexit, who has applied for a federal party registration. And you heard the man. He's got events coming up in Calgary on November 16th and Red Deer on November 30th. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.